CUZ has it in the corner to Sanderson. Back in front to Orr. Shot. Oh! Bobby Orr from Sanderson. And what could be better than that? As they beat St. Louis 4-3. Orr to Sanderson, back to Orr. And they go wild. And Orr fell down in the corner, and they have surrounded them. What a scene, John.
After 40 seconds of play, Bobby Orr.
Well, welcome to another edition of Talking with CUZ. I'm Carl Candelo here in California with my CUZ back in Mount Laurel, Vince Ferrari. I know we had about a week that we – what? I got Vincenz. Anyway.
Vincenz.
Can I hear you?
Vinny Gumbaz.
So, yeah,
Vinny
we haven't
Gumbaz.
been on one for a while. Yeah, and we're back, and we are actually kicking around thoughts about what we're going to do, because we know we did our first one with sports. We had our second one, Growing Up Italian, and now our third is our love of sports, our history of sports, watching a lot of the great sporting events of the time, championships. And we just discussed this before we came on air, that was one that's really, really interesting, and how we came up with this subject. So, CUZ, come up with how you devised this subject and how we're going to try to break it down.
Well, in sports, you hear the term GOAT, greatest of all time. And that leads to just lots of conjecture for who the greatest players are in each sport. And there's another term, it's called the Mount Rushmores. And what you typically see for the Mount Rushmore of athletes is in a particular city for, let's just say baseball. Let's say Philly. Who's your four best baseball players in, Carlton, Schmidt, this one, that one. But I thought a really good twist would be to pick the Mount Rushmore for like 10 major cities, who the best athlete for each sport in that city. So the rules are you have to have four teams in that city. It eliminates Pittsburgh. It eliminates Houston and a lot of other cities. So that's the idea. And what we're going to do is do some comparison. The reason you showed Bobby Orr, it's a great one. Bobby Orr, there's a couple things. When you talk about the greatest of all time, you're going to get lots of fights over it because there's three players, Orr, Gretzky, and Gordie Howe. And I'm going to list them as 1A, 1B, and 1C. I love Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr, to me, is just the guy that revolutionized the game. But who can't say that Gretzky didn't revolutionize the game with 230 points a season? And Gordie Howe was like the James Bond, the man's man of hockey players in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and played till 50. So, that's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover GOATs and Mount Rushmore. And if we're ready to jump in, since we're Philly boys, let's start with Philly's Mount Rushmore. And I want to basically do NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB. And easy for Philly for basketball. Wilt, right? I mean, there you go.
Number two of all time would be these two.
The beauty is these two guys are rated in the top 5 of all time. Some old timers will say they're in the top, but you can't push them.
I've seen a lot of them. Chamberlain is not even in the top 10. Some idiots that don't even know. But obviously, it's all young kids.
They give you the LeBrons and the Dirk Nowitzkis and all that. And again, you're going to have people who are younger who don't even know who Wilt Chamberlain was. And the list that I came up with, it really doesn't bring into account the Cy Youngs. I never saw them play. The guy won 909,000 games, but we didn't see him play. So we're going to keep the list to what people who they can most identify with. So for Philly again, Wilt for NBA, Bobby Clark is NHL, Flyers, NFL, Reggie White, and then Mike Schmidt for baseball. I think we were torn between Reggie White and Chuck Bednarik, and Bednarik gets a lot of votes because he played offense and defense. But Reggie was such a game changer. And a lot of people, like, they tend to have Reggie a good, maybe in the top 20 of all-time players, and Bednarik maybe top 50. So Billy has a good list, but I want to jump right
Well,
now
hold
to
on. Let's just see a little bit about Reggie,
Reggie.
because
Reggie
your offensive
just
thinking.
controlled the line. He was
In 8 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles, Reggie White played in 121 games and recorded 124 sacks.
wow.
You know, when I'm on the field, I'm going to do my best to intimidate the guy in front of me. And I want to do my best to have him intimidated before I play him. That means that this week I got to play a good enough game to where he'll look at it next week and say, oh, man, you know, look what he did to him.
Just runs
After
over
the
guys.
1992 season, White was a free. Mike Holmgren was prepared.
well, I don't know. I guess it's not bitterness,
The minister of defense.
but then losing him because it wasn't. That was before. It was still Norman Brayman. That was
Brayman
before.
didn't want to pay him along. Norman Brayman. Yep, that's before he sold the team. Hey,
And
Norman Brayman at that time was
I
thinking of
guess-
moving the club.
Of course, man. That's why they built the boxes all the way up above the 700 level. Who would want to sit in the box that high up, too? You know, I always thought that would be ridiculous. But anyway, you know, it's not Reggie's fault. You know, you go where the money is, where they want you, and they don't want to pay in. He was who he was, and seeing that video makes you realize, yes, he was a Hall of Famer. You know, one of the
And he got
best.
to win a ring.
Yeah, but not in Philadelphia. That's what we all wanted. And
I
that's
know.
what,
Well,
and luckily the Eagles
God
did
rest his
finally
soul.
get one. And you know, look at that defensive line. And even though Buddy Ryan was just a great defensive guy, but he had no clue about offense. And he goes, "Oh, what are you going to do about?" The reporter said, "What are you going to do about offense?" Have Randall run around a little bit and make a couple
figured it out.
plays. Yeah, Randall figure it out. And it's a shame he never won a playoff game. So, and I think that defense was so good. And if it wasn't for the Fog Bowl, they could have beat Chicago and possibly, you know, advanced. Still, San Francisco and Montana was very, very difficult back in those days. But yeah, it's Reggie's great. But then you just mentioned about this guy. And,
Michael
you know,
Jack Schmidt,
and
best third baseman of all time.
yeah, now they're still saying Brooks Robinson might be better because obviously they called him the human vacuum cleaner. Brooks
But
Robinson.
he couldn't hit. He
But he
couldn't
could
hit as
hit.
good as Schmidt.
And, you know,
George
it's
Floyd was very good.
yes.
So I think the consensus with around the country is that Schmidt's rated number 1, and he's in the top 20 all time of ball players. So yeah, Schmidt doesn't get cheated. He is recognized by most. Even, you know, if it's Kenny with George Brett, he was a really good hitter, less of a glove, but Schmidt. It's nice to know there's one guy for our Phillies is the greatest third baseman of all time.
Yeah, and he can hit, and you know, it's
Great fielder.
yeah, I think I'm just keep talking a little bit while I try to get that one.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump to
Hold on one second. Let's just stay on this one though. Just
Philadelphia.
Yeah, hold on, because you know, being you brought that up, and I even forgot about it. You know, having him hit. How many did he end up with?
He had 540 some.
Yeah,
Hit that 500th in Pittsburgh. You know, it's amazing when we used to watch him play. There it is. That's 500.
Home run for Michael Jack. The 3-0 pitch. Swing a long drive. There it is. Number 500. The career 500th home run for Michael Jack Schmidt. And the Phillies have regained the lead in Pittsburgh, 8-6. And the Phillies dugout comes swarming out to home plate. A lot of time to pick
for number 500. The whole dugout's out there. You don't see Smith get very emotional going around the bases on a home run. He's fifth high around third.
Yeah, and that was a ninth inning home run. Yeah, ninth inning home
Yeah,
run. Game
it's
of the league.
actually, I got well, we had 2 weeks ago when we had Clark's goal. I actually got emotional in that one because Harry's gone, Whitey's gone, or like iconic announcers that describe it. And a funny thing, he was on. Was that? I think it was the radio call. It wasn't Andy Musser on Prism that day, and he goes, he buried it.
Buried it. Yeah.
Better
Andy
calls.
wasn't the best, but he made a good call on that.
He was a better basketball announcer.
Yes, he was.
With the Sixers back then. So, but yeah, I think
he also did football. Go ahead.
Yes, on 12-10, did the Eagles games when they were still at Franklin Field before they moved to the Vet.
With Charlie Gower.
Charlie Gower, very good, cuz very good.
Well, we all know who preceded Merrill Reese as a football announcer, right?
God, yeah. So people, I don't know, people who they're going to see, but oh God, Charlie Swifty Charlie.
Yeah, let's just change the subject on that one.
I know. Well, that's we could do all announcers, Philly announcers, and actually,
absolutely.
Hopefully we'll get our friend Sam, who was the beat writer for the Flyers for so many years, a great friend for us from back in the day, and he wrote that great book about Bill Campbell, who's been gone a while, but he was on another phenomenal one. So, what city you want to go to? Let's go to Chi-Town. Okay, let's go to Chi-Town. You
want to go to Chicago?
Well, that's Chi-Town.
Chicago. All right. Basketball. Let's see basketball. Tony Kukoc?
Tony Kukoc. Yeah, well, we have to say.
There he is.
Chamberlain Russell, and then number 3 would be Jordan.
And you're going to get a lot of people going with him, number 1. I always said that Michael Jordan was the best, most talented basketball player. And I always then said Wilt was the most dominant basketball player. 2 different things. And then when you play who would you start a team with? I probably would start with Jordan because the game is not played through the center anymore. It's, through the guards. But Michael Jordan, good. I mean, he wasn't
that
first pick.
Documentary that ESPN had a couple of years ago. It was his will. He was not going to lose. His heart. He was. Now, I'm not trying to say Bobby Clark was as great as Michael Jordan, but they both had the same heart. Michael had better athletic skills than Clark did, but it was the heart and the drive and the desire to want to win. And he frustrated so many other teams that thought that they had him. And that last one wasn't against Salt Lake City, and he had the flu, and he still played and still won. So,
well, he's like Kobe. Kobe was a beast. And his teammates hated him because he would get on their butts about practicing and all that. But that's what makes these guys incredible. They practice. How many times I told you when I'd be at the Spectrum, Larry Bird would be out taking jump shots by himself 2.5 hours before the game. Nobody else did that. So you want to continue with the okay, so Chicago, you got Jordan, hockey, Bobby Hull.
Well, yeah, it's the Golden Jet.
The Golden Jet. Probably really invented the slap shot.
Well, when the curve stick with him and Stan McKeon, it was just done by.
And that's what made goalies need masks.
They realized somehow they had their sticks again. At a practice one time, wherever they were, that it was like against the heater somewhere. And they realized it started bending the stick. And I go, oh, these sticks are bad. I figured there was no other sticks. It was just practice. But then they realized when they started playing, it elevated and moved. And they go, oh, we got something.
You know who was the first guy to curve the stick?
That's
a tough one. Andy Bathgate. And then Makita became one of the first guys to do it too. Yep.
Yeah, that's
Well-
look, our love of hockey and those late 60s, early 70s will be ingrained in our DNA until we finally pass. And, nothing could.
And it was great.
accomplish-
Remember? Bobby Orr has one piece of tape.
Yeah. Well, then there was always
You there?
the saying that with that slap shot, you could, you would never be able to see it even from our vantage point in the second level. And then, there used to be an aquarium across the street on Broad Street called the Aquawama. And they said, well, yeah, Bobby Hull slapped a shot into Doug Favell, knocked him into the Aquawama pool, which was physically impossible because it was down the road a little bit, but to show how fast of a slap shot he took.
Yeah, he had a slap hit.
And as the second team that came into Philly at the Spectrum, as you said, Boston was always the one that scared the shit out of you. Chicago was a close second to me, seeing Chicago come in. And then Montreal. All right, let's go to this guy. Any thoughts?
Who's that?
I have no clue.
Dick Butt. Scariest.
Didn't he do a commercial
back in the
Plug Holes
60s?
for Prestone? Or was it another linebacker?
Ooh, I don't know. But, man, he was mean. Him, Nitschke, Leroy Jordan punched out like 5 of Timmy Brown's teeth against the Eagles in like 1963. He was a nasty. I mean, he wanted to hurt you. So it's like a toss-up.
Well, that was football back then.
Yeah, well, it was a man's game back then.
As Brookshire always used to say when he was doing with Summerall, football players are mobile, hostile, agile, and hostile. That was a football player. And
Absolutely.
look, we love watching football on a Sunday and all the games back in the 60s and 70s with Ray Scott and all those great ones. And, I have to put in, I know you didn't want to talk about stadiums, but I was always amazed back in the day that most of these, like the Bears used to play at Wrigley Field, that they didn't play
Baseball
at Soldier Field, that they would play at baseball stadiums. I'm a big, baseball guy, but it was always interesting to see, a stadium set up for football in a baseball stadium. So, and actually,
shoehorn.
This is Detroit. This is Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, Yankee Stadium. Go through the stadiums that were.
No. This is Detroit. This is Tiger Stadium, where the Lions played when they'd always play a game on Thanksgiving. So, and then I think, what is this one again? Oh, okay. Which one is that, Ben? That's Wrigley.
I'm stupid. Is that Wrigley? Wow.
That's Wrigley.
Wow. Hey, you got Boston, don't you? You got Fenway.
And that's the craziest. Well, most people don't even believe this.
You don't even know that's the green monster on the right side.
I mean, the left side.
Wow. That looks like the right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying. Wait a second.
Right. This picture's taken.
Telling me the green monster
would be on the
right.
You can still see the baseball field. You can still see the infield is still showing. You're looking straight out.
Oh, I'm not even looking at. Oh, you are right, Paul. Duh. You're absolutely right. I'm just seeing the stands are so dark on the right. Like, oh, it's green. You're right. Wow.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
They're temporary. Yeah, they're temporary seats that they put down in front of the monster.
That's a lot of temporary seats they put down.
They put up. That was almost like 18,000 that they able to put, and that's for the Boston Patriots.
Who played there?
Well, yeah, that's that was the old AFL.
Capoletti. Jim Capoletti and Babe Borelli.
Now, which will lead into something we will do down the road, but you always talk about Connie Mack, but Connie Mack for football in a championship for 1949 for the Eagles, or no, 48, in a blizzard.
48. 7-0.
And right. And, what was it, about 10 years ago, they had to cancel a game because it was going to snow. Look at this. It was like a blizzard. But they still played at old Connie Mack Stadium. So going back to that and then leading up going to how I'm going to the greatest of all time. Well, for Boston, we have to put him almost along with Russell and and this guy.
It's a toss-up. I think Russell versus Bird, because Russell won 11 championships. Bird, I just love Larry Bird. Just love him. I think when you got Bill Russell, he's probably the GOAT. And there's, good Lord, there's no competition for Ted Williams. I mean, hit almost 500 homers, but last guy to hit 400, maybe the best swing contact hitter of all time. And he lost a couple of years because he fought in the Korean War. I mean,
and there was also
and he had one of those 4-decade careers.
Well, we're going back to.
You're right. You're right. I guess. Yeah.
So we'll switch out to the West Coast, who I think is, for me, the number one player of all time. But I know the Yankees still have Manny, but because we actually saw this guy pitch, and he retired he's still living. He retired at 30, but this is him in Philly.
Yeah, you said best pitcher. Well, not greatest ball player, best pitcher.
Best pitcher, yes.
Well, he had 3 dominant years. I mean, unhittable.
Wasn't it 4? And
it could be.
Just to go back a little bit into stadiums, that when the Dodgers moved out to California, that they looked at the old, the minor league stadium they had out here was called Wrigley Field, because the Wrigley people still own that also, but it only seated 22,000. And O'Malley made a deal, looked at the Rose Bowl, and there was some things that he didn't like, but then he switched over to the Coliseum. So the Dodgers catch on real quick. That's opening day of 58, when the Dodgers were the first game ever played at the Coliseum. There's at least 85, 90,000 people.
What is that, like 80,000 people there?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's still the greatest attendance for, because in the 59 World Series, when they played the White Sox, they had 60, at 90, 91, 92,000 for the 3 games in L.A. Here's another shot of, the left field line at 261 with a 35-foot fence. With a 35-foot.
Yeah, how far was center field? I mean, that's
probably about 400, 410. Yeah.
Wow.
But so my other trivia question with stadiums is, which stadium had the World Series, Super Bowl, and the Olympics? And that's the American Stadium that had all 3. All right.
Got it.
Did we bore anybody yet? I know nobody's watching because we're just taping. But as you see down on the Chiron, it says like, subscribe, and comment. And I know we're getting some hits on our Facebook page. We're getting some hits on our YouTube page. But if you like what we're doing, it's not just sports. It's music, entertainment. We're going to be doing movies down the road. And actually, yes. And after tonight, we will be taking this on the road. As of Thursday night, I will be going to Las Vegas. My cousin will be going there on Saturday. And we hope to have a couple of talking with cousins from Las Vegas. And who knows what those what we're going to talk about. But it'll be almost spur of the moment. We'll be able to maybe do them off our phones and my iPad. We may not be able to pull up any pictures or videos, but we're going to have fun and maybe show some things that we're going to be going to Vegas at. So But as you see on here, like, subscribe, comment. We like to get the. I know we're only out here. Well, this is our fourth. Get some
Third.
subscriber base up there and move it on. So where are we going from here? What's that?
I'm saying we invite people to debate with us. That's the fun thing. There's no absolutes.
We'll have to have a schedule, and then I'm going to go on live when people will be able to do that. So
yep.
So yeah, I think all the individual pictures. So we did Chicago. We only. All right, let's continue with LA.
Wait. We missed a couple of them. With Chicago. Like with Chicago, you got Jordan, Hull. Now Butkus, or some people are going to say Walter Payton. So
or Gail Sale.
And then,
but,
and then in baseball, who are you going to say for the Cubbies? Baseball. Ernie Banks.
Well, would anybody want to bring up any of the Cubs that finally won the World Series, in 2016? Because I'm sure some modern people will bring up. And I have no clue. Wasn't Kyle Schwarber on that team that's now on the Phillies?
Yeah. But there weren't any players you go, oh my God. Yeah, they lasted 3 years, these guys? Unfortunately, Ernie Banks plays 20 years and doesn't get a ring, and he's the greatest player in their history.
Ron Santo.
And back to Boston. Ron Santo. But the problem with playing at Wrigley, what was it in the summertime, Carl? They get tired. Why'd they get tired? Day games. The sun broiled them.
People that are out there that, hey, the one stadium that didn't have lights until 1991 and all day games.
Yep. Used to look forward to that. You get home from school, it's like, oh, Phillies are playing an afternoon game at Wrigley. The infamous 23-22 game. Oh.
That's the one. And I'll never forget. Remember in 1962 or 63 when the NASA finally had a satellite called Telstar, and they did a live broadcast of things that were going on in American TV over to Britain and Europe. And they would they would take a regular TV station in a different city and put it up. And the Phillies were playing in Chicago. And I said, well, some of your people here in Britain don't have a clue what baseball is, but this is a game against the Philadelphia Phillies. And just so happened, Tony Taylor was at that when that, 5-minute clip was shown around the world off a Telstar satellite. It's the predecessor to our modern technology and be able to watch games from anywhere in the world now. And that's 60 years ago. So
do you remember when you'd see something from across the pond, and since it had to bounce off of different satellites,
there's always
you had that little delay?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't get that now, but
why it was analog, and then now everything is digital.
There you go.
Digital made everything, like look at the technology. Where are you at? 2,735 miles away.
2,700 miles away.
Right. And, it's all digital. Now, we don't know if this is going through satellite. We don't know if everything is going through. I'm sure a satellite has to be used somehow. But, look at this technology here. If we had this back in our day, man, it would really be dangerous.
You'd never leave the room.
No. A lot of kids don't leave the room because, between Xbox and
30 years ago, remember people are saying maybe one day we'll be able to see each other when we're on the phone. And look at it. This is it.
Well, we will talk about that. I'll use a scene that's in 2001 when Mr. Floyd is in the space station before he goes to the moon, and he's talking to his daughter, and it had Bell telephone, and he's talking to his daughter in London, and it was a picture phone. Where's mommy? Oh, she's in the bathroom. Oh, where's like so I always remember that. But then you had to put a credit card in to get hooked up and whatever. So,
hey, remember back in the 70s, Carl? In the 70s, you'd see a car that had the antenna in the back. You go, oh my God, could that car have a phone inside of it?
Yeah,
it's just amazing how we,
I know we're off the path here, how we're talking, but I went to Italy 50 years ago in 73. And I'm in Rome 10 days. And so my parents said, call us at a specific time. So I had to, because the time difference and everything, so I had to go to the front desk at the hotel, give them the number and tell them, okay. And they said, okay, go back to your room. Within an hour, we'll make the connection. So 45 minutes later, the phone rings in my room and I'm talking to my parents, and you could tell it's an overseas phone, overseas call. And, only 5, maybe 6 minutes. Hey, it's great.
Keep it short.
Keep it short. And guess how much that call was for like 5, 6 minutes?
How much?
$35 back then. But it was all cable underneath the ocean. There was no satellites for phones back then. Like how to be able to communicate across they ran cable underneath the ocean. People still don't know. So anyway, we're off the beaten track here from, sports and Mount Rushmores.
Yep.
I think we're finished
showing the ships.
Yeah. The cable's like 12 foot in diameter or whatever. Well, let's go out to the West Coast. We started with Koufax, and I'm saying my second there would be Drysdale as a pitcher. And then you got to go Fernando, maybe as another left-hander. But then, okay, L.A. market.
Well, I have Koufax as their best baseball player. NBA, Kareem over Kobe.
Magic. I would say Magic.
Or Shaq or Magic. Oh, I think Kareem's top 3. Magic.
You really, you
can't. I mean, you can't. How do you split hairs on that one?
The Lakers actually are the most successful NBA franchise. Now, they haven't won as much as the old Boston Celtics and whatever. They've won a lot of titles, but they've been to many, many championships. And, most people don't know where they started. Why? Are there any lakes in LA? Where's all the lakes in LA?
Why are they called the Lakers?
Yes. Well, us old head like us know the origins of most sports franchises. They started in the early 50s.
That's another show. Derivations of nicknames. Right?
Yes, and where did the teams originate from? All the LA teams were not expansion teams or beginning of the league. And actually, the San Francisco 49ers are where the Rams came from Cleveland. So really, San Francisco 49ers were like one of those, American Conference ones, and that just merged into the fledgling NFL. So I think that's fascinating. We talked on the phone last night about the origins of the Baltimore Colts. Baltimore Colts.
You want to do the progression of the Athletics?
Oh, well, yeah. It's like, for what? Connie Mack, why they call it Connie Mack Stadium? Well, he was their manager that never had a uniform on. He had a, meticulous suit. And they were from 1901 to 1954. And my father always loved the A's. He says that's the Phillies should have left Philadelphia and the A's should have stayed because he was an A's fan. He was an American League fan. I said he would go to the Connie Mack Stadium or Shy Park to see the Yankees come in and see DiMaggio and, Mantle and all that. He wasn't a Phillies fan. So they moved to Kansas City in 54, survived, 14 years? And not that they were successful. I think it was management or whatever. No, what's his name? Finley bought him. And he said, I don't want him in Kansas City. I want the brand new ballpark out in Oakland. And that's where they flourished and then where they won 3 World Series. And then, we're going to go to the city where they'll be probably within 2 years.
Yeah, it's a shame how Oakland's just sad that the stadium, they just could never get another stadium and they'll be gone. They had a problem.
My dear friends, I know around here, and I said, well, how bad is Oakland? And how bad is that stadium? And they said, obviously Oakland itself is not the best of cities. And where the stadium is now is just, not right for, that. Now, if they would be able to rehab it, all the new but it's just not going to happen. And look at Vegas. Vegas. Whoever thought back in our day we were going to say, hey, man, Nashville's going to have a hockey team. What? Florida is going to have hockey teams. Texas is going to have hockey. Arizona. I still think Phoenix, really, give it a break. Send them back. Give Quebec a franchise where they really do. Because they were playing in a 5,000 seat college hockey arena. That's disgrace. That's ridiculous. But it's all money.
But look at Vegas. You never figured Vegas would get major league franchises. But why did they get them? Because the sports are in bed. The teams are in bed with the gambling game.
Yeah. Well, look, they had the first thing you wouldn't think it would be a hockey team. Yeah, they had a hockey team in there, and look, they went to the finals their first year and 1-6, so beat the Flyers records for the team. So
nauseate me.
I know, and they had the Raiders. That stadium now. You'll fly. I drove in past that stadium, and I have a picture. But I think when we really do stadiums, there's a one overhead of the stadium. That one the one in Arizona, shows that they have the field outside, meticulously taken care of by a grounds crew, but it's on a big, huge tray. So when they're ready to put it in for an event, they have it underneath going into the stadium, and they have brand new sod and have a field. And the only other stadium is the one in Glendale in the Phoenix area. Well, Phoenix area. So
I guess the question is, when's the Vegas going to get a basketball team?
Well, somebody's going to probably move, and I know between a couple of rooms that they already have, they'll have there somebody. This is, I know for us being Philly fans, this was one that I had to keep because this shows the link when it was first finished. Citizens Bank Park is halfway being constructed, but the Vet and the Spectrum are still there. So all four pictures, five venues are there.
That's very cool.
And we all know of, what we grew up with, the three. I think I have
behind to the left of the Wells Fargo to the left. Well, back then it was the First Union, but to the left of the white structure, which is the Wells Fargo, that's where you had JFK.
Yeah, I think did I keep that one? I don't know if I did or not, but yeah, I think I showed it Oh yeah, here we go. I still have it. This is the iconic.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we have to do down the road. We have to do one about Live Aid, and maybe I can actually talk to my godparents' daughter, Rabina. Maybe we could get Richie or Ron Rabina on, and maybe talk about working for Spectagard, that whole thing about the Vet, but then the whole day of Live Aid. So. But yeah, so speaking of structures, and we're talking about Vegas, we know we're going to go see this bad boy.
Oh my God, the MSG Sphere that cost $2 billion and is 500 plus feet around and 300 feet from top to bottom. And it's an event center that opens in September, holds about 18,000. But the nighttime shots of what they project on that is incredible.
Yeah, I think YouTube is going to be the. But yeah, I thought it. It wasn't a $1 billion cost overrun. I think Madison Square Garden.
$2 billion though. What do they care out there? They don't care.
Would you believe the SoFi Stadium cost like $4 billion?
That's all.
It's all. Yeah. So okay, cuz we're down at the 40-minute mark. We have anything else? I know we always go on tangents, talk about this. We are talking with Cuz on our program number 3. We tried to talk about Mount Rushmore of great athletes of cities. We only talked about Philly, a little bit about Boston, little bit about Chicago,
LA.
and
Well, while we invite
one or two people
to
from
comment,
LA.
they can comment on their teams, and because I got lists for all of these, so I'd like to see people comment versus what we talked about, and versus what towns they'd like to make it. But again, the ground rule: you need a city that has 4 teams that play there, not 3.
And that's sad because St. Louis has, a phenomenal baseball team with a lot of Hall of Famers, with the Cardinals, with Stan Musial.
Well, you, as you said, you could count the old St. Louis Hawks, which had Bob Pettit, and then you've got Brett Hull for the, Brett Hull, Stan Musial, Kurt Warner. I mean, darn good list of players.
Not Red Berenson. Not Red Berenson.
Please. All he's famous for is scoring 7 goals against the Flyers, or 6 goals. Thanks for remembering that.
Yeah,
and while you
I remember listening to that on the radio, the third period. Well,
oh my God,
as we close it,
I was at a father-son holy a communion thing, and I got the card. That's what I had to listen to. 7-0.
Yeah. Well, as we wind this down, I know one of your things that you really love, you just have when you view this, the old Connie Mack Stadium sign with Bob Gibson throwing against Richie Allen, and that stadium has been gone 53 years, but it's still. I think I've only was there maybe 10 times in my life. Maybe you were about the same, but it was an amazing, structure to be there and to watch games from there. And as you mentioned, that I didn't realize the right side of the scoreboard was gray. The left side going to center field was black. So, okay. We thank you for anybody who's going to watch. I know we tape. I think we're going to be. I think I have it scheduled for 1:00 Eastern time tomorrow in the afternoon and 10:00 here in California. And we'll probably repeat it a few times before we go to Vegas. And stay tuned that we'll be coming. We'll probably maybe do something live on the spur of the moment, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And hey, because we're staying at the MGM?
MGM Grand.
MGM Grand. So we'll see if anything kind of look kind of cool, and we'll be coming to you from Las Vegas next time we talk to you people. So all good. Let me just make sure we got our little thing here. So we go. All right, guys. I'm sure I'll talk to you a little bit between now and when I leave, and then I'll be seeing you.
I'll be seeing you Saturday.
Saturday at about 8:00 our time. So thanks everybody. Hopefully you watch. Let us know, subscribe,
comment, disagree, beat us up. That's what we're looking for.
And then we'll go live, and we can do it live. It'll be wonderful. Till next time, guys.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Good evening. Good night, good hockey.